What's up, creeps? Welcome to another Epic Film Guys Fresh Fright review. I'm Justin.
I'm Jeremy.
I'm BluBrry.
Yeah, you are.
And this week on the show, I think by the time we release this episode, the movie won't even have been released in theaters, full scale, worldwide, or even wide release rather in the United States. I think it's getting a huge push in the second or third week of March. We're going to be talking about Love Lies Bleeding, which is the new romantic erotic thriller from director Rose Glass, who had directed previously Saint Maud. Jeremy, I know you had not seen that one.
Still have not. No.
Right, and Brady, you have seen it.
I have. Yeah.
Right. So I don't recall seeing it either, but this one I was extremely excited for once we saw the trailer. I wasn't even prepared for what we were going to see in this movie, and thankful that we had the opportunity to see it really early, quite a few weeks early at a press screening last week. So when you guys saw the trailer, I'll start with you, Brady. What were your expectations for this movie? Did you get excited by this, or?
When I saw the trailer and figured out that it was the same director for Saint Maud, I had some excitement behind it. I didn't really get a lot from the trailer in terms of really what to expect, but the stylized thriller nature of it was very apparent, and so I was excited for that. I'm a huge fan of like the 90s erotic thrillers. In fact, before this episode, I was watching Fear with Mark Wahlberg and Reese Witherspoon.
Good.
But I can
Now
just
I popped your other
in-
cherry.
now I can just live in that era of erotic thriller. So to have this one come in, I was really, really excited. But I felt like the trailer was one of those good trailers that it didn't give too much away.
For sure.
Jeremy?
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw the trailer at work, and I watched it having no idea what the hell this thing was going to be, and seeing Ed Harris look like a backwoods, terrifying, stick-skinny assassin. That's the best way that I can describe him. Instantly, I was on board for it. I'm like, all right, Ed Harris is the bad guy. He plays a great bad guy. And, man, he looked like extra terrifying in this role. And he certainly was. Like, he was a very threatening force within the film. And that definitely conveyed in the trailer. I'm a big Kristen Stewart fan. The movie Underwater, man, basically Alien, which it's Alien in the ocean, is kind of what that movie is. It's fucking fantastic.
She was super underrated in that movie.
Oh, absolutely. Sure. It made me go, you know what? Like, I dig Kristen Stewart. I'm down with this. So, the plot is very original, and from what I could tell from the trailer, I remember that I showed somebody at work the trailer, and I was like, look, I don't even really know what this is, but I want to see it. So when we had
Right.
the opportunity to go see a critic screening, I was all in. I was like, yeah, we have to go see this. I'm stoked.
Yeah, I mean, this is 100,000% right up my alley. 1989 is when this takes place. It has to do with bodybuilding. It has to do with the criminal underworld. It has to do with Dave Franco with a fucking mullet. Did an awesome mustache on top of that. You really can't ask for more. And it is A24. And that automatically, at this point in time, there are those haters out there that are like, fuck that A24. You know what? I look forward to every single thing that they're putting out, because as of right this moment, I've been impressed, or I've enjoyed pretty much everything that I've seen them release. And they're always challenging their audience and always doing something unique and different. And yeah, I agree with you too, Jeremy. I love K-Stew. I was not a proponent of the Twilight hate. She got a lot of shit from that role early in her career, and then,
those movies made
$1
billion, so I'm sure she sleeps just fine despite those haters.
Yeah, and she's really come out of her shell as a talent, as an actor, and been doing fantastic fucking work.
You mentioned A24, and I love almost everything they've put out except for Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. That was the one thing that I was like, you know what? I didn't love that.
That is the rare exception.
Yep.
That is the rare exception where you and I kind of together felt very similarly about that one. But even so, I still understood what they were going for with it. It just didn't. It didn't
work for me.
It didn't land for me either. But here, this movie, it has everything. It's got that synth wave, almost Cliff Martinez style score, and I felt right from the get go it was very reminiscent in tone and feel and look to like a Nicholas Winding Refn movie. It felt a little bit like how Drive felt to me, just that vibe throughout. Now it still has some fun moments and everything. It's not just totally cold and calculated, but it led me down that path, if you will. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this and you have not seen the movie, I would highly recommend go see the fucking movie and then come back and listen, because we're going to just open up the floodgates and let it all out. But for those that are uninitiated, that maybe just saw the trailer, or those listening that have no idea what this movie is, BluBrry, fill them in on what Love Lies Bleeding is all about.
Yeah, so Jackie is a bodybuilder on her way to Las Vegas to compete in a competition. And on the way there, she passes through a small town and meets Lou, who is a gym manager. They begin a relationship, affair, whatever you want to call it. And things start going very, very, very wrong. It's got, as Justin said, Dave Franco with a porn stash. It's got Ed Harris with a skullet. It's just insane from the start. Wild ride. But that's the gist of it. That's Love Lies Bleeding.
Very much so. And I was looking this up in the meantime as we were prepping for this a little bit, mentioning Ed Harris's look. He looks haggard as a motherfucker in this thing. And apparently the look they came up with, he originally only wore the long extensions as a joke. And then Rose Glass, the director, really enjoyed them, and they were like, that's the look you're going to have in the movie. And I feel like that works so well with his age at this point, and obviously this takes place in 1989. The style, the hairstyles and the look that people were going for at the time. But jumping up right off the bat here in terms of the cast, I think this is an extremely well-rounded cast. I think in terms of Kristen Stewart as Lou and Katie O'Brien as Jackie, their relationship, there's a Bonnie and Clyde nature to their characters and how they interact with one another. And there's an amazing chemistry they had together in this movie. And I think that has to be the most important component, that it has to work in order for this movie to work properly. So I think that for me, at least, like jumping right in, I immediately felt that chemistry between the two. How did you guys think? What did you think about that?
Flawless. I felt like it was flawless, and it felt natural. You believed that these two people were in love and would do anything for each other, for sure.
Yeah, it was very authentic, very lived in. They had insane chemistry. I think the whole cast had chemistry together, but you're right, Justin.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't work unless this part of the story works, and they killed it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting. We have Jackie just showing up to this small podunk fucking town in the middle of nowhere. They shot the movie in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It totally has that look and that vibe. Just this desolate wasteland of a town. Not much fucking happens. You go to the gym, you go to the bar, you get wasted, you fuck, rinse and repeat kind of thing. But the moment that she sees her at the gym, when Lou works at this gym, which, by the way, as a super hardcore 80s bodybuilding fan myself, I was like envious of people getting to train in that shitty ass gym.
Oh, it was awesome.
Dude, the first time we see Kristen Stewart in the gym, she literally has her hand up a toilet, unclogging a turd with her hand. She's wearing gloves, but it's one of the fucking grossest things that I was like, there you go. That's how you introduce a character right there. Don't mind me.
Sure.
Here I am. This is my character. I'm physically grabbing a turd out of the drain. It was fantastic.
I'm telling you right now, those listening or those that have ever been to a gym, especially a hardcore gym where there's like bodybuilders and powerlifters, you never want to take a shit there. And if you go into that bathroom, you're going to smell the most disgusting shit of your entire fucking existence. I would warn anyone to not attempt it because those bodybuilding fucking protein shits are Ugh,
Oh, it's
worst.
outrageous.
Where's the most
you can't-
awkward place you guys have ever had to poop?
An Arby's off of Route 17 in Stafford, Virginia.
All right.
Very interesting. I don't know if I talked about this in the episode where I talked about going to visit the set of Beetlejuice 2, the second visit where Tim Burton was on set, Jenna Ortega and all that stuff. But there was no bathroom anywhere near the set, and there was like a porta-john literally downtown in this tiny little town, like in the middle of everything, where people can just walk right up, people walking their dogs. It's just a porta-john sitting there. And I shit there, and there were like kids walking by. I could hear them like laughing outside of the porta-john. Probably the most awkward, I guess.
Okay.
Right off the bat.
I actually have one that came up in my head as you said
Hit
that.
me.
So you guys went to Warped Tour.
Yep.
Oh, of course. Dude, those were the worst.
Dude, I think any festival that has porta potties and you're going to be there for at least half the day, no matter if you don't eat anything that morning, somehow you're going to have to shit. Like, you're going to take a sip of that festival water and just go straight to the porta-john.
Dude, that's actually
that's
actually mine, dude. Go ahead. I'll let you finish
no
yours.
way.
I'll let you finish yours,
But-
but yeah.
I used to do this thing where I would go to different states to see their Warped Tours each year. So I went to Ohio one year. I think it was like 2015, 2016. It was one of the last years they did Warped Tour. And I did not take precautions. I mean, I was enjoying it. We went to a baseball game the night before. Next day, we get to Warped Tour. We're like chugging beers. It's just hot as balls out there. And about 11 a.m., my stomach's like, and I just almost didn't make it. I had to like sort my way through the crowd, like trying not to shit my pants, like waddle over to the porta-john and just like hover over it. And it was just, in Nope, when the alien sucks everything up into it, it was like that, but reversed for me. Like everything was just coming right back out.
So mine was 2002 Ozfest. Me and my buddy Craig went to fucking 7-Eleven beforehand, and like a dumbass, I ate a fucking big bite, bro. And I get to Ozfest.
Did you put nacho cheese on it?
Of course I did.
Yeah.
I'm eternally a fat kid, so I'm gonna make it as fat as fucking possible. So, we get to Ozfest, and I can't remember if it was July or August, but it was like 100 fucking degrees out. I was not in a porta potty. They had like bathrooms, like public bathrooms or whatever. And I was literally about to shit my pants, and I went into this stall, and I went to shut the door, and then I realized there was no lock on it. So literally, I was shitting. It was 100 degrees in that bathroom, too, so I was shitting, holding the door closed as sweat was just pouring down my face. And, like, people kept, because, like, it's like a festival. So people kept trying to open the door, because they're, like, checking all the doors to see, like, if any of the stalls were unlocked. So, of course, mine was unlocked, but I was physically holding it. So people, as I'm shitting and sweating, fucking people are trying to push it open. And I'm like, no, I'm in here! I'm in here! They're like, oh, okay. So, like, worst shit of my life. I'm sorry that I derailed our podcast for that. Please proceed.
Oh, no, I mean, totally fair. It's been a couple weeks since we've gone into the grotesque grossness.
We were due
love
for
to
it.
discuss
We were
on the
due
show.
for it.
Yeah, for sure. And side note, real quick, now that I remembered it, in middle school, just saying, in middle school, Whitney Point Middle School, where I went there for 3 years, dude, the one bathroom that was near most of my classes, there were no stalls. The toilets sitting on the floor were totally open, so if you had to shit, you had to shit out in the open.
No.
That's
not
like
even
fucked
making this
up, dude.
I'm not even making this up.
I would not be able to.
You better be a ninja pooper then. Like, you wait till there's nobody in there, like, blip, 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 and then you're out.
It's a process. It's a process for me. It's a long, drawn out process.
Dude.
Just to get ready.
Same.
So, okay, real quick before we move on. One more thing. So, I did, I went to Mennonite school, and it was in the church
Here we go.
is where we did school, right? And so they had one bathroom. You couldn't use the bathroom in the main church area. You had to use it in the quote-unquote school area. So the guys had one bathroom to share, one stall, 2 urinals. The amount of pubic hair it was just like these urinals had sweaters. But we had to share one stall.
That's so gross, by the way. Jesus, what a fucking vivid description that was.
there was one kid, I won't name him, but he was known as
Name him,
the
fuck
shitter
him.
of the
Fuck
school.
that guy.
His name was Joseph.
Yeah, fuck you, Joseph.
But he won't listen to this.
If you're listening.
He's a patron. He's a patron.
Is he?
No.
Oh my god.
Well, we love you, Joseph. We hope you become one.
But he would just, I mean, you would have to like time it, and he would just drop bombs every day, and then you'd all just, it would waft out into the main area from the bathroom, and you'd just be like, I guess I'll hold it.
Oh my god.
Shout out Joseph.
And yeah, so this movie.
How do we even come back from that?
Well, so okay, the two meet. The characters of Lou and Jackie, they meet at the gym, and they start this connection. They have this love affair, and Jackie is there trying to, she wants to make her way to Vegas to do her first bodybuilding competition. They're not really telling each other much about their pasts, and that's pretty realistic, because when you first meet someone, you're having a whirlwind romance. You're not sitting there talking about like what you did as a kid and your parents and all that stuff, but there's obviously this mystique behind each one of them and where they came from and who they are now. And so the interesting thing is like they, after Jackie's training, they kind of start drinking and getting a little bit tipsy, and Lou kind of like automatically she just opens up this huge canister filled with like every single fucking
steroid
performance enhancing drug in the world. There was like trenbolone, Anavar, fucking testosterone, everything in there, and she's just like, yeah, you can have it for free, to kind of try to build her up for this competition. And I think it's interesting because the steroids, they're kind of a metaphor for what happens to that character throughout the movie as they progress, as they develop, as we see what unfolds to these two.
Did you guys kind of catch like a werewolf vibe from this? Like, in a lot of ways, they portrayed Jackie almost as like superhuman, because a lot of this movie is very artistic, right? Like there's things that happen in the movie that like aren't necessarily happening. They're artistic choices and maybe how certain characters feel rather than what's really unfolding. And the whole time that I watched it, I found certain components with Jackie to be like that of like a werewolf, but like one that could come to the rescue if needed. Like, I don't know. There was like a metamorphosis happening with the character, and I took, a part of that was, I was like, man, this is like kind of like werewolf vibes to me. Like, I don't know. I could completely be alone on that, but it was definitely the vibe
I
it
agree.
gave me.
I mean, I feel like for werewolf movies, what I typically think of, especially my favorite one is the 1941 Wolfman, and in that it's this tale of addiction, and he's battling with that. Your inner demon is becoming your outer demon, and so I definitely had vibes of this from Jackie on the steroid, how she's becoming addicted to it, needs it to cope, needs it to get through. This is her dream. So yeah, there were times sitting there I was like, huh, especially as it gets that artistic flair to it where she's getting, kind of cartoonishly bigger as the movie
She's
goes
also
on.
like, there's these like moments of her hulking out and her veins popping out of her biceps, and these super stylistic close-ups of just like her back muscles just strengthening and popping out, And
again, I took those as like, that's how she was feeling in that moment, and like that wasn't actually happening,
Well, I think it's over stylized. It's hyper realistic, if you will, because when you're on those performance enhancing drugs, especially when you first start taking them, you will feel like you're a fucking Hulk. You don't feel like a regular human. You will feel additional strength and power. That's what that stuff does. That's why it's extremely, extremely unsafe if you don't know what dose you're supposed to be taking. And clearly here, she tells her to take a smaller dose. We see she's taking a much larger dose. She's just stabbing herself with this shit every day, unaware, uneducated on what she's supposed to do. It can be extremely, extremely harmful to your body. And, there are cases of roid rage where that's a real thing, where it will take you over. So the werewolf comparisons, very much so, man. I totally agree with that, because that will sometimes for some people it will make you a completely different fucking person.
I've read shit
especially
like
when you're on more than one compound. It's just like, you know, a totally sober person, they start taking like a bunch of drugs, all kinds of drugs, you know, drug cocktail, if you will. They'll become a different person and they'll react to it in that way. They could be super violent. But in the case of this, you know, we find out, you know, so Jackie's working. She doesn't know who she's working for, but it's actually Lou's dad, who owns a gun range. And, you know, that's, again, we skipped forward a little bit, but when we first meet Jackie, she's actually having sexual relations with Dave Franco's JJ in the back of what was Camaro? It was a Camaro, right?
Yeah, it was a Camaro, yeah.
Outside of a bar, and we find out what kind of fucking slimeball he is. And he's married to Beth, who's played by Jenna Malone here.
Which is also funny because Jenna Malone and Ed Harris played in The Stepmom together in 1997.
Mm-hmm.
She's almost unrecognizable in this role. They give her this super 80s mom haircut and look, where at first, I mean, I knew she was in the movie, but I was like, oh my God, that's Jenna.
Yep. Yeah, she definitely, for the character, I think, looks older in this, but for some reason, in my mind, Jenna will always be the girl from like the early 2000s movies, where she's like in the ruins. That's Jenna Malone to me. So it was kind of shocking to see her in this. She played it great. It's a very sad role that she has to play, a very complex role too. But I think with the little screen time she gets, she's super impactful for exactly what she's going for. For those listening, we said spoilers, but, you know, she is married to JJ, and we find out very early on that JJ is an abusive partner. And I think, you know, Justin and I talked about this on the long drive home. The movie does a really good job of showing you enough without showing you way too much.
Yes.
Like, this movie did not need to show JJ hitting her.
Dude,
the abuse.
And that, I'm glad you said that, because then you look at a movie like The Black Phone, right? And that one scene where the dad in The Black Phone was abusing the kids. Like, dude, it was fucking difficult to watch. It was awful because they wanted you to fucking hate the dad and for there to be this emotional dynamic. But I feel like they showed too much of it to where it was just like, dude, that was like way too much. And you're absolutely right. For this, they did a great job of showing you enough but not too much and insinuating more of it than you actually see. But I will say, man, the practical effects that they did on Jenna Malone after she got beaten and she was in the hospital is some of the most realistic practical effects I've ever seen, to where, like, dude, seeing her face hurt. Like, it hurt. I'm like, ouch, man, that looks so painful that I can feel it almost. Incredible.
It felt like I could reach out and touch it.
It made me think of like a Cronenberg film almost.
Right.
Like that same visceral reaction to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, Jenna's character, Beth, she's the sister of Lou, and their dad is Lou Sr., Ed Harris. And so we find out, you know, there's something seedy going on here because JJ works for their dad, and it's obviously an ongoing thing where he beats his wife, where he's fucking womanizing, he's out getting hammered, just banging girls on the fucking side streets. And, you know, they find out that she's been badly beaten, like really, really bad. Like Jeremy just mentioned, the makeup job, it's horrific. And much to your point, Brady, you know, the horror is off screen, and I was thankful for that. But the impact is felt in her performance. And there's a scene where they're having dinner before she gets beaten that bad, and they're all out together. You know, Jackie, Lou, JJ, and Beth. And just in her face, you can just feel the fear that she has of her husband. She clearly loves the guy. She doesn't want anything bad to happen to him. But that's what abusive relationships are like, you know, especially ones that extreme, where the wife will continuously blame themselves for the abuse they're getting. They'll find excuses as to why it's their fault and not the actual abuser's fault. It's just abuse 101. But after this happens and we see what he's done to her, this is where I like to put in hijinks ensue. The shit hits the fucking fan. This is when the movie takes a dark turn and really goes absolutely insane into this fever dream of sorts. Brady,
Mm-hmm.
the scene where, again, we're going to get into full spoilers, but so Jackie's on testosterone. She's on lots of steroids.
Yeah.
She starts transforming, as Jeremy said, into this kind of other alternate person, and she takes it into her own to be like, listen, I'm with this person I really care about. He's hurt by this. I'm going to go sneak into their house and wait for this motherfucker.
Yeah, it's fucking intense because, at the hospital, the whole family's pretty much there. Lou, her dad, Lou Sr., and they have this weird conversation where she's like, you said we take care of it last time, and I think we need to really take care of it this time. And he's like, well, we can't kill him. And, Jackie's sitting there. And then, it ends, and Lou is obviously upset. So Jackie, you're right, starts taking steroids and is like, well, I'm going to do it. This person I care about is hurting and her family's hurting. And JJ knows that people are going to be looking for him. So the scene of him getting home from jail, opening up some whiskey, hearing the voicemail from Lou Sr. being like, JJ, we need to talk. He's kind of skittish. He hears a noise. He goes into the room, and fucking Jackie just like comes out of the shadow in an instant and sucker punches him. And then just, God, when she's bashing his face into the coffee table and his face is going into the coffee table, like teeth are spraying, blood is spraying. I was just stunned.
Brutal.
Like, it was one, and that's, spoiler alert, not the only moment in this film that does that to you. But I was already along for this ride, and that just sealed the deal for me. Like, it was one of those moments where you look around, you're like, is everybody else feeling the same way that I am right now? Mm-hmm. Like, nobody was expecting that.
That visceral impact that comes out of nowhere. And it's brutal, but it's not glorifying it in any way. You know what I mean? It's not done with a joyous nature or tone or vibe to it. You see the aftermath, and you see his fucking, I remember Jeremy saying out loud, like, oh, his fucking jaw or something.
It's like hanging on by a thread, dude.
Hanging off by a thread. You can feel it there. That's where the impact comes from, is that visual right there. And just the sound design of you hearing it. And again, it's not done in like a slasher horror movie type way where it's glorifying it. It's making it feel real. Mm-hmm. Like if you were to believe this is actually happening.
Yeah. And what's even more realistic about it, that helps kind of ground it, is Lou is on the way home from the hospital in a cab, sees her truck that Jackie took outside of JJ and Beth's house, stops the cab, runs in there.
That was funny as fuck when she like threw the money at the cab driver.
At the cabbie.
There's like subtle funny things in this movie, man.
That, or like the running joke of her trying to quit smoking, and like there happens to be a cigarette no matter where she is.
Yep.
So she, runs into the house, investigates, and finds Jackie crying in the bathtub and just in a state of shock. And so that like brings it back. It's not like this gory slasher film takes over. It's still very much a crime thriller, and just a seedy one.
Yeah, and also like extremely darkly romantic. Finding your lover that just went off and murdered someone for you at a crime of passion, but a crime of love. And then from there they have to figure out what the fuck they're gonna do. And at this point, Lou's kind of like unveiling to Jackie, like, listen, you don't know who my dad is. Like, this is going to be a huge problem. We have a huge problem on our hands right now. And that's when we kind of figure out that she, as a youth, was helping her dad dispose of bodies of people.
And executing people. Executing people for her dad. Yeah.
Because, going back a little bit, we missed over it. He does own a gun range, but he's also a gun smuggler.
Yep.
So he has made his fortune smuggling guns across the border.
And he has a police officer that works for him and is on his payroll.
He's paying off law enforcement. He's got that in, which, again, not far-fetched at all. Even to this day, there are many criminals that have that connection where they're able to, slip through the cracks, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of the most powerful visuals of the movie is when they take JJ's car with him in it, and they toss it down this cavern, and it just kind of blows up. And they're just standing there in this beautiful wide shot of them together as the smoke is billowing up from this deep, dark hole in this the middle of this cavern, if you will. And from there, it's like shit really has hit the fan. Like, they know they're in dire straits.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's also, I feel like Jackie is still in a state of shock the entire time because they get back to Lou's place and Jackie's like, all right, well, like, pack your stuff. We're going to go to Vegas. Like, I have to compete. And Lou's like, well, we can't leave because then people are going to suspect that it's us. They're going to find the body because all the smoke is billowing. And she's like, but I put it with all these other bodies that I happen to know are there. So they're going to be looking at someone else, but we have to stay calm. We have to be normal. And she's like, I'm going to go out, I'm going to do some stuff. And then like, don't leave. But then as you said, hijinks ensue. Jackie leaves. Jackie has to go work out. Jackie has to get some testosterone going.
Yeah. And when she comes back, she's absolutely just insane.
Yeah.
But she's ready to do this competition. And this is another one of my favorite things about this movie is she is so realistically portrayed. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact, as I was looking some stuff up as we were talking there, I was correct in this because when you see the physique that she has, that Katie O'Brien has, I said it to you guys after the movie. I was like, there's no way that she got into this kind of shape just for this movie. And if you look at her shape in other movies, she's clearly like really into bodybuilding, fitness, and the like. And I guess apparently in the past, I'll have to look up more about this just for my own basic interest, but she used to be a competitive bodybuilder in real life. So that makes total sense as to why she was the perfect fit for this, because you don't see female physiques in movies like this almost ever.
No.
It's extremely rare to see that. Being a huge fitness bodybuilding enthusiast myself, it was awesome. Also that it was retro, and the way that her character is written and the way she portrays it as this super driven, motivated, like she really wants to go to this competition. That's how these competitors are. That's how these people are with this sport, where that's their passion. Like, that's their life, and she wants to go out there. And obviously part of that is the drugs that she's taking, where she's like fucking starting to go out of her mind, like she really needs to get to this competition in Vegas. So she just hitches a fucking ride. She leaves Lou almost high and dry to kind of deal with this mess, and she's like, no, I'm going to compete.
Yeah. And then things do not go well at the competition. That's for sure.
They get real weird, man. Real body horror weird and strange.
Yeah.
And she's also like coming off of the drugs and realizing the weight and gravity of like everything that she had just done, that she murdered someone. Like, that's, you get to see when it all sets in for her, and she's at this competition and she's got two scenarios. She can have an emotional breakdown, or she can fucking suit up and try to win the competition. So she opts for the more beneficial version for herself, which is to try and win the competition.
And while she's up there, she's taken over by all this pressure, and she ends up, she's posing wonderfully. She's doing a great job. Then she fucking throws up all over the stage.
She starts having these weird visions and flashes of the murder, and
super surreal.
All of a sudden, she vomits Kristen Stewart out of her mouth. It's an A24 move. You're like, okay, A24. There it is. Yeah. It's kind of like the scene in Men, where like the dude at the end and like keeps like being a thing over and over and over again. Like, that's kind of what it reminded me of. So I was like, all right, there you go, A24. You got us. There it is. There's your stamp right there.
Then you even have, this other competitor like laughing at her from behind the curtain, and then she just rushes through and literally beats the ever-living fucking shit out of him.
Gets arrested, yep.
And of course, that gets her arrested, and from there, Lou Sr. gets the upper hand. He comes and bails her out, and he's got her. This is the bait he has. Mm-hmm. And, from here, there's another twist. Earlier in the movie, there's this character, Daisy, that clearly likes to hang around Lou at the gym, and clearly they've had some kind of on and off
relationship.
Situationship.
Sexual relationship.
Sexual, something. And she had witnessed Lou and Jackie driving JJ's car when they went to take it to that area to drop it and blow it up. And
can I say it?
Now,
can I say it?
Yeah,
Whenever you want,
you can
baby.
say it.
Pre-show, this is all me and Brady kept quoting. It's my favorite line in the entire movie with this chick that played Daisy. She goes, "I saw you, and what were you doing with that big girl?"
Big girl.
Listen, that might be one of those quotes that becomes one of the most memorable movie lines of all time.
Dude, it was in the trailer too. So I'm a huge fan of the "what were you doing with that big girl?"
Yeah, so Anna Baryshnikov, who plays Daisy in the movie, really, really great at playing this slimy kind of really just
drug addict
grimy
chick that's in
drug
love
addict
with
character.
Lou from the gym.
Yeah.
But it also, I mean, I think it doesn't detract from the plot. Like it just keeps.
Oh,
it
not at
going.
all.
And I think it's great because while Jackie has gone to Vegas to compete, she and Lou aren't really on good terms at that point. So she's like, all right, I don't know what's going on. And then Daisy comes around and starts dropping kind of hints like that. So then Lou feels like she's got to sleep with Daisy to keep her quiet and satisfy
to subdue her. Yeah.
So when Jackie calls Lou to bail her out, Daisy answers the phone.
She doesn't want you anymore.
She doesn't want you to call anymore. She doesn't want you anymore. So that's what forces her to call Lou Sr. So then the next day, Lou still doesn't know what's going on. So she goes out to a diner with Daisy, and they're having this weird, comical, but also very tense conversation where Daisy's letting on kind of like I know you were doing something that you shouldn't have. But I'm not going to say anything. So she was like, here's the idea. Daisy goes, why don't I think what I saw that big girl driving JJ's car. And that's what I'll tell the police. And Lou goes, well, no, let's not do that. Let's not say anything because that could still come back and hurt me. And you don't want to do that, blah, blah, blah. And so she's like, oh, okay, I wouldn't do that. They're eating some nasty ass IHOP knockoff pancakes that looked like they would just rot her teeth even more. And then
they look good to me. They didn't look bad.
They get home. They get back to Lou's apartment. Lou is talking to her. She goes to unlock the door, and the camera pans to just Lou walking through the doorway, and you hear the thwop, and the blood just splatters all over Lou. And that was the other scene for me.
It was a shock moment.
Daisy getting just killed. And then it pans out, and Jackie's sitting there with a gun pointed right at Lou.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, man. Like, that was
it's tense,
incredible.
dude. Tense, and it was a shock moment where everybody was like, oh, no. I mean, like, dude, there was no indication that was about to happen at all.
And at that moment, I also was like, there's no indication, there's no reason why Lou has to stay alive after that point.
Yeah.
Like, if you're just watching the movie, what's going on? Like, she could have pulled the trigger and killed Lou.
For sure.
So for me, I was like, wow, is that what's about to happen? This goes in a completely different direction.
That would have been a huge that would have been a huge shock as well, yeah.
She runs off.
But then you've got an FBI agent that is pressuring Lou, Kristen Stewart's character, to like basically give her dad up. And Kristen Stewart hates her dad, but she's not doing that. And then, dude, one of the most tense scenes out of the entire movie for me is so like all of a sudden she realizes like, fuck, to protect Jackie, I've got to get rid of Daisy's body. So she wraps Daisy in a rug that's in her apartment. And next thing you know, she cleans up the mess too. She cleans up the blood. She cleans up everything. Next thing you know, the FBI agent shows up at her apartment and knocks and is like, we'd like to come in. And she's like, give me a second. And she like drags the body that's wrapped up in a carpet behind the couch. And she's moving very quickly because the FBI agent is like, come on, let me in. So by the time she lets him in, you can like kind of see the hair from Daisy from behind the couch. And then there's blood that's coming out and the cat is coming over and is licking it. And it's just this,
it's licking the fucking blood.
Dude, there's
man.
just this whole, moment of tension. And you're like, oh my God. It's like, I could barely breathe in that scene because I'm like, fuck, you care about this character. And that's the thing. That's how you know that this filmmaker is fantastic, is I genuinely gave a shit about these characters.
Yeah, 100%. Even though, Lou has, she's done some shit, right?
Sure.
I think it's just situational where she's kind of been brought into this her whole life. Who her dad is, she's lost her mom. Her sister is in an abusive relationship with her husband. She works at this shitty ass job managing this pretty awesome gym. I gotta say, the gym's pretty rad. But she's just stuck in this podunk town. You feel for her. You want to see her succeed. You want to see their romance succeed. You want to see them right off to the sunset. And we're not going to get to the ending quite yet. But, so from there, we have this epic final showdown at Lou Sr.'s mansion, which I'm like, dude, this guy's fucking loaded. I'm like, she's living in this shitty ass apartment.
Yeah, it's loaded. It's also like, all right, no wonder the FBI was onto him. Like, he owns a fucking gun range in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and he's got that fucking mansion. Come on.
Yep.
He's like, I just made some good investments.
Well, it's interesting.
That painting on the wall, dude.
I was
with his wife.
I was just about to say, it's interesting that you guys that you mentioned that initially he wasn't supposed to have that long hair, and it was like something he did as a joke, and the filmmaker was like, no, I love that, because getting props and production things ready for films takes a long time, pre-production stuff. And that painting, he didn't have that. Either his hair was pulled back in a ponytail and you couldn't see it, or when they did that painting of him, he just didn't have that hairstyle, because initially, from what you said, he wasn't supposed to have that hairstyle. So when you told that story, it made me think of the painting, because he wasn't rocking the skullet in the painting.
Right. And it's also, the painting is not Lou's mom, because they have hinted throughout the entire movie, Lou's mom, they can't find her. The FBI have been looking for her. And
yeah, she has a stepmom of sorts.
Where is she?
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't know. She left. She's gone. They never actually say what happened. They just say, oh, she's gone. She's not here.
Well, Lou Sr. says that your mom left. She couldn't handle it. And they have this conversation during this confrontation at the end, which, if there's anything for me to critique, I know, Brady, you and I mentioned this on our drive home from seeing this. It felt a little bit anticlimactic. Their one-on-one conflict with one another, their final showdown, if you will, between daughter and father. The dialogue and kind of how Stewart performs during this, it felt a little bit comedic to me. I don't know if that was intentional.
Yeah, her delivery just seemed very off to me. Like, I think her delivery throughout the entire movie was good and done very well. I also tried not to fall into the trap of making fun of her because of the Twilight movies.
Because that would be extremely immature, Brady.
Yeah,
right.
Grow the
but
fuck
I
up,
think,
Brady.
I do think
shit.
there is some level of, she does get that deadpan look sometimes and have that delivery that is a little more monotone, and that isn't what happened here. What happened was it was like sort of rushed and way too energetic, way too frenetic, even, where it's like, she's like, I know you killed my mom. You told me you killed my mom. What do you do? And he's like, whoa. Like, this is like, what is going on here? I feel like even Ed Harris's character was like, whoa, what is going on? So for me, that kind of took me out of it for a moment, but that's, again, just being nitpicky. It's not like I had that problem throughout the whole movie. It was just this one moment
for sure,
where it did also, like Justin said, make it a little less climactic.
I had no qualms with it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I bet you did, because you fucking love Twilight.
That's a lie, and you know it.
Yeah, I know.
But
even if he did, Brady, what's that mean?
Film is subjective. Justin will tell you that. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, from there, we have this one moment, which is, Jeremy mentioned earlier, it's an A24 movie, so you have these things you expect they're going to pop up out of nowhere that might not necessarily make the most sense thematically, but visually they're just there. And, while they're having this final confrontation, Lou and Lou Sr., Jackie fully hulks out and turns into like
a giant, like
40
fucking
a
feet
literal
tall. Giant. It was an artistic decision, because, again, I think a lot of Jackie taking the steroids and hulking out and things like that, it was how the drugs were making her feel. Like, she felt like
a visual metaphor.
Yeah, she felt like a fucking monster. Like, oh, I feel like a beast. I feel great. These drugs are making me feel great. And so, when she swooped in to try and save Lou at the end of the film, I mean, she felt that confident, and she felt as big as a building that nothing could stop her. So the director chose to literally show how she physically felt, and she ends up being like 40
it's
fucking
just a
feet
visual
tall.
representation of that. Yeah.
We get in the fucking car to go home, and Justin's like, "What'd you think about it?" I said, "Yeah, it was pretty good." I said, "I don't like how she got super big at the end." He's like, "It was a metaphor, Brady." It's like, yeah, no shit.
Yeah, but like again, to me, I don't have. I like when movies take turns like that, when they do something unique and different, when they kind of just go, you know, fuck it, we're gonna show this visual. It's a little bit off. I guarantee you, there will be people
they're gonna be
Brady,
pissed and hate it.
Go see this. They're gonna take that as a literal thing.
And they're gonna go, I fucking hate the ending. The whole movie was great, and I hate the ending, because they're not gonna understand, if you will, that it's absolutely a metaphor for how she was feeling in that moment, and that nothing could stop her. Not even the terrifying, Lou Senior. Not even he could stop her. And I like at the end that, I mean, man, if anybody had it coming the whole movie, it was Lou Senior, right? But I like at the end, they don't pull the trigger. And because going to jail for him is a much worse penalty than being executed, right? Because now, like, he's going to truly suffer at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And, wrapping up the movie itself here, this is something you mentioned earlier, Brady, how you love early 90s, late 80s erotic thrillers, as do I. They're one of my favorite types of movies. And it's interesting because a few weeks ago,
Boner check.
Recently rewatched Basic Instinct, so I rewatched it again because I love that movie. And I was mentioning to Danielle that they don't make movies like this anymore. They just don't. It's almost like an extinct genre. And I was happy to see this kind of return to form. This ending feels like that of which could come from a movie of the 90s, like a Thelma and Louise, if you will.
Yeah.
Where they're just literally riding off into the sunset. It's a fucking beautiful scene. They're just in the car, super nice wide shots together, and they're off. They're together. And
they're off until they look in the back and
Daisy's not dead.
It starts moving, and then they got to pull over because Jackie is passing out, and Lou gets out, and you see her, kind of come into the frame, dragging the body.
As the credits are rolling over this
And
is what's playing.
Even goes through Daisy's purse and smokes one last cigarette.
It was great.
God, it was great. It was, yeah.
Amazing ending.
I agree. Like it definitely felt like it could have been one of those movies that we love from the 90s and late 80s.
It has that visual look to it, that feel to it. Casting Ed Harris was clearly not a mistake. Right on the nose, and it all works wonderfully for me. But I'm going to throw it to you first, Brady, for trash it or treasure it and final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, we all, I think, wrote little blurbs about it the day after we saw it. But I'll just kind of echo the same sentiments here. It's a fucking fever dream, man. It's a descent into obsession and lust and fears. It's all told through this seedy crime thriller, and I love the feel of it. I love that they went for that 89 time frame. I love how Dave Franco's JJ looks. I love how Lou Senior looks. It's all authentic, it's real, and it's palpable. I think the score is great. I think it moves the movie along. It goes in time with it, and the love story at the end of it, or at the heart of it, is exactly what you want out of this. Like, that keeps you invested the entire time, because like Jeremy said, you want these characters to succeed. You want their love story to succeed. You want to see them make it no matter what gets thrown at them. So for me, it is a complete treasure. At this point, it's very hard to see anything else making me feel how this movie made me feel this year. Wow. Now, that could change. It's very early, but I was not expecting that out of this one. So a very surprising, but welcome surprising treasure from me.
Jeremy.
So my little blurb that I came up with was batshit crazy, bizarre, and beautiful, go and see Love Lies Bleeding. I fully meant that. This is typically not the kind of movie that I would necessarily rush off to see, but I was so entranced by the trailer, and with it being an A24 flick, which I'm a huge A24 fan, I was like, all right, I got to see this, man. And it, by God, blew me away. Like it was just, it was lights out, man. I loved everything about this movie. I literally have very few, if any, qualms about it. I was just along for the ride and thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, that being said, I had a buddy that was like, oh, so like, is this a movie that you're going to buy and like watch again and again? And I was like, no. Like for me, this is maybe the buy part, but as far as like watching it again and again, this kind of movie, like for me personally, I don't foresee myself being like, what I want to watch again and again and again is Love Lies Bleeding, right? Like you go on a ride with these people, and this is one of those films that once the ride was over, like I'm glad that I went on it, but I probably will be good for several years before a revisit on this one. But that being said, I really enjoyed it, and I hope that the rest of the movies that we see this year are even a fraction as good and take as many chances as this film. So, treasure.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And, I didn't say this during the actual review aspect of the episode, but I mentioned this in Jeremy and I's review of Lisa Frankenstein, which also took place in 1989. Motherfucker, your movie takes place in 1989, and I don't know if Rose Glass knows this or not, but there should have been at least one bat symbol in the fucking movie somewhere. A poster in a fucking
everywhere.
window or something. Come on. But in all seriousness, yes, this movie knocked my socks off. Really enjoyed it. It was intoxicating. It was a fever dream of sorts. It was a adrenaline-fueled thrill ride and twists and turns, things you just did not expect to see happening. Wonderful performances, great characters, and I failed to mention the name of the composer of the music, Clint Mansell, who's extremely well known in the film world. Great composer, his music, very Cliff Martinez-esque in this. And I have to say, Ben Fordsman's cinematography, takes the cake in the movie as well. The visual married to the music and what we were seeing on screen really made it something special. And not as artsy as it could have been. It still felt a little bit grounded and down to earth in terms of its style. Yes, it's stylistic, but it's relatable in a sense. It's not super, crazy in one way or the other where people can't enjoy it. I think mainstream audiences are going to really enjoy this thing as well. And I myself, Jeremy, to your point about wanting to see it again, I can't wait to see this again. I'm definitely going to go see this in theaters at least one more time, just because I really enjoyed it that much.
Yeah.
But for me, treasure it. Definitely going to be one I buy. And so far this year, just had Dune Part 2, which is going to go down in history for me, at least in terms of epic adventure movies, and then this as a thriller. We're off to a good start. I hope the horror genre kicks in here and we get a couple of really good titles from that as well. But so far so good. We're at the beginning of March, and I'm a happy movie watcher. So thank you so much for listening to this Epic Film Guys review of Love Lies Bleeding. If it's your first time, if you've been listening for a long time, thanks again for sticking with us. Do us a favor and head on over to iTunes, Apple Podcasts, leave us a review, or Spotify. It's even easier. All you have to do is click some stars. And once again, thanks to P. Diddy Combs for that recent review. We're going to try to follow through and maybe do Final Destination movies. Yeah, new review, boy. We got a new one. But thanks a lot for that. And you can find us on social media literally everywhere at Epic Film Guys on every single social media platform. But thanks again for listening. And as always, I'm Justin.
I'm Jeremy.
I'm Be Ready.
And we like to ask you to keep it creepy.